It is officially week 12 of this NFL regular season, and that means it's going to be an extra, I guess, slightly longer week than usual, being that it's Monday Night Football in Los Angeles. It's the Harbaugh Bowl. That's what we're working towards. Welcome inside the vault. It is Tuesday, November 19th. I'm Bobby Trossett. As always, joined alongside Sarah Ellison for our Ravens Lunch Hour live stream, and here's what we've got on deck for you. Louis Riddick, ESPN analyst, shared why, based on what Mike Tomlin has told him in the past, may have led to and continues to lead to the Steelers having the Ravens number, at least in recent years. Former Raven Domonique Foxworth passionately defended the Ravens earlier today. Chris Broussard continues his belief in the Ravens. We've got a number of takeaways from John Harbaugh's press conference, some MVP chatter as Lamar and Josh Allen sort of take center stage after a huge win, of course, for the Bills taking down the Chiefs. And yeah, just another Tuesday, I suppose. But good to see you, partner. How's it going?
Good to see you. I'm doing well. The fall is in the air, so I feel like, my outfit is matching it appropriately, at least where I am. I guess it's warmer in Baltimore right now. But fall's in the air. Still deconstructing this Ravens loss and how they can come back. But Bobby, there's no panic inside the vault. So we'll get to that later too.
Hey, by the way, starting in December, I am now going to have the same exact microphone after a purchase yesterday that I made as you. So for those of you who have been unhappy with my headset, my mic set, which is really useful for my remote setups on game day and whatnot when I'm out in loud environments, when you and I are on Radio Row for Super Bowl things and things of that nature, we are now in early December going to have the same microphone. So for whatever that's worth from a quality standpoint, if you care, if you've been wondering, if you've sent feedback, just know that's coming. So looking forward to it.
I'm excited for it. I think the headset, I have the headset too. I think the headset is good when you're on location, but it'll be nice. We've got the same camera. So we got the same good looking camera. And so we're looking good together. And I think with the new, the same mic, we'll start sounding really good together too.
I can't wait. What really sounds good is when we get super chats before we dive into the first friggin' topic. And Captain Hard drops in a 1999 and says, Vault fam, hot take incoming. What a way to start off the show, impromptu here. I think when we play the Chiefs and Steelers, I think the game should be called as if Lamar is a rookie. Quick reads, more design runs, at least for the start, feel like he's thinking too much. Well, we're going to get into exactly what's gone wrong and maybe that part of the game plan that's gone right for Pittsburgh right off the top here. Thanks to Captain Hard for the first super chat. Again, homage giveaway is set for tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Now, this has obviously been discussed ad nauseum. The Steelers have won 8 of the last 9 against the Ravens. Context is always key, as we've discussed in recent days. Some of these has been due to strategizing for a deep playoff run, which the Ravens have yet to make aside from last year, of course, with the regular season finale in recent years, Sarah, 2019 and 2023. No Lamar, not a lot of starters gearing up for that bye week and whatnot and resting a bunch of key guys. But every one of these games has been decided by one score. And I think when you look at the way Mike Tomlin called that timeout prior to the 2-point conversion, it's garnered a lot of attention in terms of him out-coaching Harbaugh in that moment, putting Pittsburgh in a good position. What about the matchup itself? Louis Riddick, ESPN analyst, had this to say earlier today about conversations that he's had in the past with Mike Tomlin about why the Steelers actually prefer this matchup with the Ravens.
Love the objective part of football analysis, right? We always want to boil it down to some kind of statistics on a piece of paper and go, this is why teams and this is why teams win, this is why teams lose. Let me tell you why Pittsburgh beats Baltimore. It's the mentality. I'm telling you, sit across from a table and listen to Mike Tomlin talk about that rivalry in particular. And he will tell you, you know how he is. He's a wordsmith, right? He has all the greatest words and lines in the world. But the thing he tells you, the best line he's ever told me is this: they love to be the bully, and we love to play the bully. We relish that matchup. And every game, it comes down to that. Just watch it. Watch how the Steelers play this football team. It is totally different.
Louis Riddick, part of a bigger segment, which we're going to get to another piece of that in just a second here from Domonique Foxworth. But Sarah, you heard it there. He went on to say, let me tell you why Pittsburgh beats Baltimore. It's the mentality. The best line he's ever told me is this, referring to what Tomlin told him. They love to be the bully, meaning the Ravens, and we, meaning Pittsburgh, love to play the bully. We relish that matchup, end quote. And then Lewis went on to say, every game it comes down to that. Watch how the Steelers play this football team. It is totally different. And in recent years, it has been different. But the only thing that's been in common, as we just said in the other slide, is Pittsburgh having the advantage in the win-loss column.
They 100% have the advantage. And, like you said, there's some where they were resting their starters. But even when Lamar's been in there, we now know that, Lamar himself is 1-5 against the Steelers. The thing, it's very interesting. So Mike Tomlin told Louis Riddick that they love to be the bullies. So how fun is it to beat them at their own game is kind of the sentiment there. Bobby, these two coaches have been going up against each other. I think it's the second most ever among, let's see here. They've had 36 Sunday was the 36th matchup against these two. That's the most meetings between head coaches, including playoffs. Or it's got to be the second most. It says the most, but it's got to be the second most because they show the most there. Going all the way back to George Hollis and Curly Lambeau. And I know this because I interviewed John Harbaugh about that. He wants to be the best head coach ever. And it's the same thing. Lamar Jackson wants to be the best quarterback ever, right? All these guys want to be the best. And this is one of the best head coaching duels that we've had, but Mike Tomlin in recent years is constantly edging him out, as we've said, with winning 8 of the last 9 Pittsburgh has. And to me, Bobby, it always just feels like in recent years that Mike Tomlin is just one step ahead. Okay, so here he's telling Louis Riddick, they want to be bullies, so we're going to out-bully them, and it's just going to totally catch him by surprise, right? How about last year? I'm looking back to your tweet, Bobby. I remembered this as our intro music was going, and I went and found this because I had it bookmarked from a while ago. You had this when Patrick Peterson was on a podcast, and Patrick Peterson says, this is last year, I'll never forget, on Wednesday meeting, Coach Mike Tomlin said, when it's a dying moment, they will try to burn the house down. You go back to that moment, I'll be darned. They tried to burn the house down, and we caught them.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you go back to the 2-point conversion where he calls the timeout, and he gets to see what the Ravens are up to. And then even after that, I mentioned this yesterday, on the ensuing drive, the Ravens stop Najee Harris on 1st and 10 for he maybe gains a yard. And then Ravens obviously have to call a timeout to stop the clock, hoping to get the ball back. And then Mike Tomlin puts in Justin Fields to throw him off. And so Justin Fields makes a mistake, slides early. You're still got to go 3-1. And so John Harbaugh calls another timeout to stop the clock. And initially, the Steelers trot out Russell Wilson. They get into the huddle. They get to the line. You know what? Mike Tomlin got to see the Ravens defense again. Calls a timeout, puts back out Justin Fields. It's always one step ahead. Always one step ahead. And I was thinking about this article that Jeff Zrebeck wrote before the game. And he said this. He said, for years, former general manager and current executive vice president Ozzie Newsome used to talk about how the Steelers were an annual measuring stick for the Ravens. From an overall wins-losses perspective over the previous 5 years, the Ravens have been the better team. There is no doubt. This is what's crazy, is Pittsburgh has won 8 of the last 9. But Baltimore has clearly had the better team. You've got the MVP at quarterback. Mike Tomlin doesn't have a franchise quarterback. He's constantly working with a lesser roster, or he has been the last few years. And Jeff's pointing that out. From an overall wins-losses perspective, over the previous 5 years, the Ravens have been the better team. They have 8 more regular season victories and 2 more playoff wins than the Steelers during that span. Yet they haven't often been the better team when they've shared the field. Yep. And there are plenty of reasons for it, but they're for sure in this head coaching duel, Mike Tomlin just seems to be one step ahead in more recent years.
Tomlin had Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky under center for him last year. The guy finds a way to win. You know, we could talk all we want about the context that is absolutely necessary when you do talk about that first statistic slide that we had up, right? 8 of the last 9. The context is key. But it's not like Mike has had Big Ben these last few years. No, it's been a quarterback carousel in Pittsburgh, and yet he's still found a way. And to your point, a great example there was the coaching masterclass that he put on, even if it was basic to some out there, calling that timeout prior to the 2-point conversion and understanding that we want Lamar running to the left instead of the right. He's great at both, clearly, and he made sure to say that, Mike did, in his press conference. But that's what they prefer. That's what they got. That's what ultimately won them the game.
Yeah, if you're gonna have to defend him going right or left, you want to defend him going left for sure.
Super chats. Christian Watson writes, "We can run to a Super Bowl with our 3-headed monster. Lamar excels in play action and shouldn't be expected to just drop back and shotgun. We have the formula." Daryl says, "I guess the wild card may be the way we win a Super Bowl, since having the number 1 seed twice has yet to yield a Super Bowl run." Right now, it's sure looking like they have done it before.
I think both times they won a Super Bowl, it was they started as a wild card.
Was it both? Okay. That obviously definitely it was in 2012. And then if you think about the way things are shaping up right now in the AFC conference, you know, home field advantage and that top overall seed advantage, Kansas City and Buffalo right now. It feels as if it's a 2-team race. I know it's not mathematically, but it sure looks like as of right now, barring something unforeseen and a collapse for those 2 teams over the next month and a half, that the Ravens will have to, the road to New Orleans, if you will have to come outside of Baltimore. Abdul says, "Simple. Harbaugh lacks killer instinct." Dev James 25 says, "Remember how Travis Kelce punked our team? That would have never happened with Ray or T Sizzle. The team is all bark, no bite when things get tough." Carolyn says, "Henry's record with 20-plus carries, Titans 31-8, Ravens 4-0. That's an 814 win percentage. What are we doing?" Carolyn, we're actually going to dive into that in just a bit here in terms of where the Ravens have gone right and obviously where things have gone wrong when it comes to the usage of Derrick Henry. But something that I know, Sarah, you spent a lot of your morning watching and considering is what Domonique Foxworth had to say on ESPN earlier today.
Yeah, well, they were talking. It was funny. You know how Get Up does their fun little words. They called them bird heads for not running Derrick Henry enough, and they were talking about it again, about whether they ran Derrick Henry enough, and you could just see Domonique Foxworth biting his lip, waiting for his turn. He was not liking the narrative. Obviously, it started yesterday on Get Up, also with Rex Ryan and Damian Woody, just absolutely taking Greg Roman to just smacking him left and right.
Todd Monken.
Rex Ryan saying, "Whoa, you think you could be a head coach? You're lucky you're an offensive coordinator." I mean, he went hard against Todd Monken, and Domonique Foxworth was not having it this morning.
Your eyes at this. Because I've been listening to it for a couple of days, and this criticism, there's plenty to criticize.
Hold on, let's rewind that because I want to get a keyword that he was definitely rolling his eyes.
Why are you rolling your eyes at this? Because I've been listening to it for a couple of days, and this criticism, there's plenty to criticize the Ravens for. Mostly we should be celebrating how the Steelers play, but this particular criticism about Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter to me feels like kind of foolishness. Like they had 2 drives in the fourth quarter. One was ended by a miraculous interception by Peyton Wilson. The next one ended in a touchdown. So if your argument is we got to give the ball to Derrick Henry more, then all right, Peyton Wilson don't make a miraculous interception, and then the next drive they scored. So what are we doing?
Okay,
what are we talking about?
Okay,
so you just got to hand it to Henry 14 times. The 2-point play, fine, I'm with you. We can be critical of them not having him on the field on a 2-point play, but it was clear that they had a 2-point play, and Mike Tomlin outsmarted him. him by calling a timeout. They gave up their first 2-point play. They went to their backup 2-point play. They seemed confused by it. That was a problem. We can be critical there, but this nonsense that we keep talking about, oh, they got to give Derrick Henry the ball in the fourth quarter. So 2 drives, 1 interception, 1 touchdown. So let's stop it. Just stop it.
Look at the screenshot, Sarah. Look, I picked the screenshot for a reason. Everybody, he's on an island this morning, Domonique was. Yeah. Look at everybody looking at him.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it's a hilarious screen grab, but we don't need to do that for ESPN, correct?
There was game highlights included.
There was game highlights in there. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, no, he was like he was getting the high pitched voice in there. Let's just stop it. He's rolling his eyes. I thought it was interesting because the conversation went on. Okay, so first of all, Bobby, you gave the context yesterday after Rex Ryan just annihilated Todd Monken. You gave the context yesterday. We talked about.
Should I repeat it?
Yeah, go ahead. You talked about the penalties nullifying it, and also the fourth quarter.
Yeah, because the way it was set up yesterday for Rex to go scorched earth, it was. Derrick Henry got 0 touches in the fourth quarter. Officially, that is true. The one swing pass that was designed for him that went for 15 was called back because of an ineligible man downfield penalty. So that negated 15 yards. That negated the touch for the King. In total, he had 4 touches negated by penalty. So again, it's just part of the context that's necessary for the conversation. And then specifically in the fourth quarter, as we've already discussed, there were just 2 drives for the Ravens. One that ended in the miraculous, as Domonique said, the miraculous interception by Peyton Wilson, grasping it out of, ripping it out of Justice Hill's hands, and then one that went for 10 plays for a touchdown. Yeah, so that's just some of the context.
Mina Kimes gave the same context that a lot of people were retweeting yesterday about the fourth quarter. So that was great, and I'm glad that we gave that context yesterday, not completely jumping on with Rex Ryan. And I certainly feel like Todd Monken has been a very good offensive coordinator. Let's not forget, as upset we are with that 2-point play. And as Domonique mentioned, that certainly is valid criticism. But we also can't forget that this is still the number 1 offense, even after that Steelers debacle. This is still the number 1 offense, and it's the number 2 offense in points per game. I think they just, after yesterday, fell behind the Eagles in terms of rushing points per game. But I mean, look at this. Going into that game, total offense number 1, rush offense number 1, pass offense number 3, points per game number 1, third down percentage number 4, fourth down percentage could be better, red zone offense number 1. Okay. I mean, that's, and so now they did fall to number 2 in rush offense and number 2 in points, but they're not that far behind. So I don't want to go as far as Rex Ryan did, but there was an interesting part of that conversation that continued, Bobby, that we didn't quite get when Saturday was like, okay, I hear you, Domonique, but there's a pattern here. And I think that's where more of the frustration is coming from, and the fact that it was the Steelers where you're supposed to be out physicaling them. And as we just heard from Riddick, Tomlin relishes and being bullying the bully. And so I think because of that AFC championship game still looming over our heads, and then you put on top of that the Ravens didn't use Derrick Henry very much in that opening game against the Chiefs. Right. And then John Harbaugh had the quote that said, well, we didn't bring him in here to have 30 carries per game. And so I think that context is coming up, and or that background is coming up. And so even if there's a legitimate reason in the fourth quarter not to use him, you're still you still have that you still have that background that you're still stewing over. You've got it up here. There's just how many games here where look at these carries where it's less than 20, so the Las Vegas Raiders and Domonique Foxworth argued that if you go to every single game except for the AFC championship game, he said that there was a reasonable reason not to run Derrick enough. I don't know about that opener where he had 13. I'm not I don't know about that one. The Cleveland loss, 11. The Pittsburgh loss, obviously 13. Cincinnati, that went in overtime, you only had 15. And again, that was a shootout. So you had 15 against Tampa Bay, 16 again against Cincinnati, 18 against the Raiders. And I think that's just so often that it's not above 20. That when you have all of that background and then you see it against the Steelers, it's like, okay, thanks for the context, but look at the trend. And I think that's more what people are angry about. And so I think the context is fair, and you can do that for every single game. But at some point, when are you going to consistently dictate to the defense that this is our offensive player of the year and we're going to play him right next to our MVP? At some point, you have to be dictating that time and time again, especially if you want to have confidence going into the playoffs. So I still feel like the criticism is valid, even with the context, because it's just happening too often where like your identity on offense should be Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. And I know there are a lot of mouths to feed. And so it's probably not fun in the beginning of the game to only get 2 yards from Derrick Henry when you have Zay Flowers who can do something, when you have Justice Hill who can break a screen and go for 10, and you have Mark Andrews, and like all of that is so like, hey, we're only getting 2 yards here. I can do better over elsewhere. But if you're playing the long game and you're trying to wear people down, you might still have to have more patience, even though you have these other mouths to feed. Like, this has to be your identity, and you need to dictate it more than you're doing so.
And regardless of the opponent, right? Like at the bottom of this list here with this screenshot of Derrick Henry's statistics in the column that's highlighted, sure, Cleveland, Kansas City, and Pittsburgh all have one thing in common: dominant defensive fronts with dominant individual players on each one of them. Myles Garrett, Chris Jones, TJ Watt. But don't let that dictate how much you do or don't utilize this guy. He is your identity, and good things have really happened. Every game's different. The circumstances are different. The in-game scenarios are obviously different, but look at what has gone right when they feed him. Dominate Dallas, despite the collapse in the second half that we all remember. 25 carries. Beat Washington, close contested game, competitive game, 24 carries. Absolutely throttle Buffalo, Sunday Night Football, 24 carries. Thump Denver, 23 carries. Like, good things happen when you feed him the rock. John Harbaugh was asked about the 2-point play. The 2-point conversion would be game tying. And he said, quote, guys are on the field for specific types of plays. Derrick Henry is a great football player. You want him out there situationally, but he's not out there for every play. So like I said after the game, that's the play that was called. That's the personnel group that it was set up in through a lot of game planning. Sure, there's a lot of game planning. And of course, as Domonique said in a different part of that segment, Sarah, had they converted, we'd be celebrating Monken. We wouldn't even be talking about the fact that the offensive player of the year candidate in Derrick Henry was sidelined. But the fact that he wasn't out there at the very least to be a decoy, at the very least, that his sheer presence alone would change the packages, right? The types of people that are going to be out there on the opposition, right? Pittsburgh would have had to change their personnel if he was out there. They would have had to gone heavier. So,
yeah, from a logical standpoint, I get what Harbaugh is saying. Like, we have personnel packages for certain plays. Okay, we'll get the personnel package out there that has Derrick Henry. You know what I mean?
Yep. Because that dictates what Mike Tomlin and their defensive coordinator has to trot out there.
Right.
If they had taken that opportunity quickly when the timeout came in to shift gears on a dime, get Derrick out there, all of a sudden Pittsburgh's starting to panic because they now have to change and adjust their personnel groupings to reflect the big body presence that is Derrick Henry.
So tell me, I can't remember, was Derrick Henry out there before they called the timeout for the jump pass? Was he out there for that?
I don't know. Prior to the timeout? I don't know. Yeah,
let us know, chat. Because that would have been a perfect opportunity. To me, it's like you have your go-to play. That's fine, the jump pass. And maybe Derrick Henry isn't a part of that. So they call a timeout. You know why he called the timeout. You absolutely know why he called that timeout. So why not change your personnel? It's a timeout. You have time to do it. So He saw, so you have your play, have a backup play with completely different personnel.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because that's why he's calling a timeout. He's trying to get an edge. So be one step ahead. For these 2-point conversions, for these goal to go, like all of them. You know they're going to call a timeout when the game is on the line. So always be ready with the backup. I mean, listen, I'm not on a football team. Is that crazy to change personnel during a timeout? I don't think it is. Let me know.
It's getting cute in a do or die moment. It's getting cute. It's getting finessey, as Jeff Saturday said earlier today on the panel, in a do or die moment. And it just is too familiar, as you kind of alluded to earlier on, for this fan base that's old enough to remember what happened in late January against the Chiefs at the bank.
Real quick because I don't want to seem like we're going too far. Like I'm not on the Rex Ryan bandwagon. I just want to point out, just that we're all aware, Derrick Henry leads the league in rushing attempts, tied with Saquon Barkley. So as much as I still think, especially, listen, if you're trying to save him for the playoffs, I get it. But especially for games that it's AFC North physical games, those are the games you should be using him most. So you can just absolutely demoralize your AFC North opponent. I'm telling you, with Derrick Henry, nobody in the fourth quarter is going to keep up if you keep running him. Okay. Yep. But from a very big picture standpoint, let's not overstate it. He and Saquon Barkley, as they should be, are leading the league with attempts. He is leading the league with rushing yards, and he is leading the league with rushing touchdowns. Yep. So I just want to put that from a big picture standpoint, that we're not totally far off. Okay. But it's in these key games where if you want to be the bully, well, then use your battering ram on offense.
I love me some Rex Ryan, but come on, don't drag Todd like that and say that he's lucky to be a coordinator. None of this is luck that you're seeing up on the screen right now that you had earlier on, right? Going into week 11, they ranked just about first in every single key category from an offensive unit standpoint. So that is that. Let's get to some super chats.
Okay.
Unless you had something to add.
Nope. We're just going to talk about Broussard.
Vino says, I meant 3 tight ends. And this went along with his other super chat, which was, could have come with 3 tight ends. Zay and Henry, you could run and pass because they have more linebackers. Omni King says, are the Ravens willing to play a boring, systematic offense to beat the Chiefs and Steelers? Not saying there can't be explosive plays. Cordarius says, Ravens fans won't be happy until they hand the ball off 30 times into a brick wall and lose. This offensive line isn't a bully just because Henry is back there. Captain Hard says, embarrassing. Tomlin said we fold in pressure situations, basically kind of crazy, a.k.a. burning houses down. Says a lot. Gabe says, doubt that Monk can trust the offensive line versus strong defensive lines. Captain Hard says, Derek should have had 15 carries before the half. Deshaun says, I get so aggravated thinking about our coaching. It's such a joke. This is why I'm more of a Lamar fan than a Ravens fan. Habitual line stepper says, that big picture looks real small to me. He was ahead going into division rival games. They ran more with Barkley. No excuses. Sarah, we've got some breaking news. Since Aaron Rodgers has come to New York, all has gone the wrong direction for him. They fired Robert Saleh earlier in the year, promoted their defensive coordinator, and now they have fired the former Raven, Joe Douglas. He is out as the general manager of the New York Jets as of 15 minutes ago, it seems. Lots of chatter on here in terms of a potential return to the scouting department of Baltimore. There's nothing imminent about that. Jeff Zaribek and Mike Garafolo both noting that the Ravens, among other teams, think very highly of him. So his next opportunity is potentially coming around the horizon, but they are fully cleaning house in New York land. And what that means for Aaron Rodgers, I don't know, but it's been nothing short of a disaster there this year.
The Jets are like a quintessential team that panics. They are all over the place. All over the place. Can't draft quarterbacks. Can't bring in a veteran quarterback that's a 4-time MVP. You fired your head coach. You last minute traded for a new wide receiver that your quarterback was demanding. And now you're firing Joe Douglas, who I feel like has done a pretty good job. Certainly drafting on defense and some of the receivers and all of that. But another head is rolling, and all I got to say is, Joe, come back to Baltimore. Come back to Baltimore, because the Ravens the Ravens scouts are always being plucked, Bobby, always being plucked. Let me give you an example. George Kokinis. He was coming up with Eric DaCosta as part of the 20 for 20 crew. And he was hired by the Browns to be their GM. It was a short stint, as almost everybody's visit to Cleveland is, because they have no patience either. They have no stability either. They can't build anything over there. And George Kokinis came back to Baltimore, and he now heads up the pro personnel department, and he's good. He's really good. Joe Douglas, come on back. Come on back. Listen, you can never have too many good scouts. You want somebody who's got an eye. Come on back, Joe. Come on back.
Hey, you never know, right?
No problem.
Because of just a year ago, not even, Joe Ortiz leaves to go be the general manager of the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh. Maybe there's an opportunity to gain more continuity, get somebody that was a lifelong Raven back in the building and has a ton of different GM experience over the last several years in New York. Maybe you're reuniting what happened. If that's the case, maybe Eric's already on the phone. Who knows?
Speaking of panicking, Bobby, Chris Broussard from First Things First. Last year, he picked the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. He was let down, just like all of Baltimore. But you know what? He didn't jump ship. What did he do in 2024? He comes back and he picks the Ravens again. Okay? He's the one who's always wearing his purple robe when the Ravens win. He's got on his purple Jordans, I think those are. Brought in a broom when the Ravens sweep the Bengals. So everybody's off the Ravens bandwagon. Everybody's like, oh, now I'm concerned about the Ravens. They're not going to do anything in the postseason. They stink. So they come to Chris Broussard. Chris, are you panicking? Are you still on this bandwagon?
Panic time for you and your Ravens.
I've been riding with the Ravens for 2 years. Picked them to win last year's Super Bowl. They let me down. Picked them to win this year's Super Bowl. There's growing evidence that they might let a brother down. I didn't plan on saying this. I didn't plan on going here. But I've been hinting at it for the past several weeks, maybe even longer. I'm going to try to say this as gently. I'm going to try to let them down as gently as possible.
No way.
The Ravens are not a smart football team. I had y'all. Y'all thought I was going to flip-flop.
I did.
Unlike some people on this show, I don't flip-flop.
Tough love.
I'm not panicked. Panicked is too strong of a word.
Okay.
I'm concerned, worried, fretful, on edge. Yeah, I'm all that. But I'm not panicked, all right? They look like a team that is not smart or disciplined. And they just, look, I like John Harbaugh, and he's a Super Bowl winning coach. They don't look well coached. And one, they lead the league in penalties, averaging 8 a game, and yesterday they had 12. So we not only don't cut down penalties, we go hard. And how many good offensive plays, productive offensive plays did they have brought back because of a silly penalty? But more than that, they still, what are we, week 12? Don't know who they are.
So he gets into the Derrick Henry conversation again, which we've already done. Yeah, I love that from Chris Broussard. I love that. Bobby, listen, we see franchises that panic. They are the Jets. They are the Browns, okay? Those franchises panic. We've been through it. It was not great, that loss against the Steelers. It was bad. They were bullied. They were outsmarted. They were outcoached. They were out-executed. Everything. You cannot turn things around with a panicked mind. You got to remain calm, to have a clear head and fix the problems. Nobody expected the Ravens to suddenly do well on defense. They gave up no touchdowns, none, to a team that had been averaging 30.3 points per game since Russell Wilson took over. Okay. If they can get the defense figured out, they can surely get penalties figured out. They can figure out Patrick McCary, Daniel Falele on these RPOs passes. Just take a step back so you're not an ineligible player downfield. Justin Tucker can straighten out his kicks. I know he can do it. And everybody that's jumping ship, see you later. The Ravens can figure this out. Just do not panic. Make the tweaks that you need to make. We already know, and we'll get into more about some changes that are going to continue on defense. John Harbaugh announced the formula that's going to be happening on the defense. They can figure out the penalties. They can. They absolutely can. Justin Tucker can straighten out the kicks. He can. He absolutely can. They can do this. Keep a clear mind. Keep your eye straight. Keep your head down. Keep working. Don't listen to the noise. And just get it fixed. Look yourself in the mirror. That's all you got to do. Look to each other. Nobody else matters. Just be accountable to your teammates. And that's it. The Ravens will figure this out.
Wouldn't be fair to panic about a 7-4 team that has a favorable next month and a half schedule-wise compared to what they had Murderer's Row right out of the gate in the beginning part of this season. And you mentioned maybe the most important part of this entire puzzle that they figured out on Sunday was the defensive personnel adjustment that looks to be permanent. We're going to get to that in just a bit when we reach the John Harbaugh press conference takeaway topic. But before we do, Josh Allen, certainly he was always in the conversation. But after beating the Chiefs and handing Kansas City its first loss of the season with an epic performance, he vaulted himself into the top of the conversation surrounding 2024 NFL MVP. And if you look at the graphic that Fox NFL put out in terms of the current betting odds, he actually is the favorite to be NFL MVP, even though the numbers don't necessarily, aside from the win-loss record that his team has, the numbers in the head-to-head with Lamar, we'll take a look at those. But right now, Josh, plus 150, Lamar, plus 200. Jared Goff probably, Sarah, would be right in this conversation if it weren't for those 5 interceptions a couple weeks ago. But he certainly and his team followed that performance up very nicely, absolutely dominating the Jacksonville Jaguars last weekend. But here is the head-to-head, and you pulled it in here, Josh versus Lamar, and it's very one-sided. Again, without win-loss record in mind. I'm talking statistically.
Right. So obviously Lamar beat him head-to-head in their one matchup so far this season. And it wasn't even a close game. But Josh has his team at 9-2, whereas Lamar is 7-4. Completion percentage, Lamar has the edge. Passing yards, Lamar has the edge. Passing yards per attempt, Lamar has it. Yards per game, Lamar has it. Touchdown passes, he's got it all. Yeah, interceptions, he's got less. And by the way, we talked about this yesterday. All those interceptions come off all of his receivers having both hands on the ball. His quarterback rating smashes Allen, like just everywhere. But here's the thing, Bobby. Last year, Lamar didn't win the MVP based off of stats alone.
Nope.
Okay. And so what it comes down to is signature wins in huge moments. And that is what Josh Allen delivered on Sunday. Here's the thing, though. He delivered it in mid-November. We're in November. Lamar took a stranglehold on MVP last year because of signature wins in December. This is
late December, Christmas night to be exact.
Exactly. The opportunity is still way ahead. To your point, Bobby, Jared Goff, you said he would still be in the conversation. Well, he is in the conversation. He's number 3 when a week ago he had 5 interceptions, but he came back and had a phenomenal game. And so this is week to week. The betting lines and odds will change week to week. But at the end of the day, the MVP voters are going to have a feeling. They're going to have 3 or 4 guys in their mind, and whoever puts together signature wins in December is going to win it all. And so this is a great moment for Josh Allen. He certainly deserves to be back up in this conversation. And I wanted to pull in Emmanuel Acho and his thoughts on it because he is an MVP voter. He's one of just 50 that get the honor of doing so. And this is where his head was at yesterday morning after that Buffalo win led by Josh Allen.
Watching that game yesterday, I had to recalibrate my mind as an MVP voter.
Oh, talk about it.
I had, like, again, y'all know me. I'm an MVP voter as of last season. One of the most prestigious things I carry as someone in sports. Yeah. It makes me watch film more intently. It makes me be more intuitive as it pertains to the game of football. I had to recalibrate my mind as an MVP voter because I'm sitting here saying, Josh is currently the front runner for MVP. Josh Allen made it abundantly clear what he is doing, with whom he's doing it, makes him the front runner for MVP. His first overall pick this year, Keon Coleman, didn't play. The first overall pick last year, Dalton Kincaid, didn't play. And they still won the football game versus the best team in football. I see Josh Allen. I see Lamar Jackson. I see Jared Goff. I see Saquon Barkley. I see Patrick Mahomes. I see Justin Herbert. I see Kyler Murray. But most importantly, I see Josh Allen now as the front runner for MVP.
Fair enough, Bobby. But here's the thing. Lamar, he can rewrite this. We just hit a low. He just hit a low against the Steelers, but he's got the Steelers again. He's got Eagles. He's got Christmas night, Houston. He's got plenty of opportunity to put together some signature wins and, put that, feeling back into MVP voters that, no, I'm the guy. So he's got plenty of opportunity to turn this around. And I know some people don't care about MVP. I do. I want him to have 3. I want him to be one of the fewest quarterbacks to have three or more. I think there's 6, or he would be the 6th to get 3 MVPs or more.
I got to say, too, Acho's pretty consistent with this evaluation. You go back to that Christmas night performance. He is on record for saying that was the night as his, and that was his first year as a voter, as he just mentioned. That was the night that it sealed the deal in his mind. Now, again, this is November. This is mid-November that Josh had his signature performance. Will there be more down the line that will impact his candidacy? Sure, and for Lamar as well. But that does, aside from the statistics, as we learned last year, as you just mentioned, it's not just about the stats. It's what you do for your team. Buffalo was shorthanded. Josh and company handled business and ultimately knocked off the 2-time champion, going for the first ever three-peat. The current playoff picture right now, if the postseason were to begin today, look at the rematch that we would see. And there's already going to be a rematch, by the way. A month from today's Tuesday, a month from Thursday, we're already going to see the rematch of Pittsburgh, Baltimore at the bank this time around.
Yeah.
But they'd be matching up in a 3 versus 6 round. Baltimore being the 6 seed, Pittsburgh being the 3.
And they'd be in Pittsburgh again. And that's, again, this is another layer of the opportunity that Lamar Jackson has, is that if he storms back and figures out a way to take the number 1 seed in the AFC North and somehow gets back into maybe the 2 seed conversation, maybe 1, who knows what's going to happen with Kansas City yesterday. And we're only pulling in Ravens clips from the national media, but everybody's talking about like the Kansas City Chiefs. Have they been, fortunate that they up until Sunday barely winning these games, and so they could mask some of their issues that are going on. And so, I'm not betting against Kansas City. They've burned the Ravens and so many other fan bases so many times, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Ravens storm back. It's mid-November, and at the very least, they could still win the AFC North and then some. So that's the other opportunity that Lamar has.
Takeaways from John Harbaugh's Monday press conference. Got to start with penalties. They are the most undisciplined team league-wide, as we've discussed. I don't believe those rankings will be changing going into Week 12. And he was quoted for saying too many penalties, way too many penalties. The penalties on offense are the one thing that's holding us back. That's the biggest issue. As you went on to write, he addressed flags in all phases, but specifically called out the holding penalties on running plays. He also said the linemen downfield penalties are mostly happening on screens, which are tough. Was quoted for saying, but we still got to find a way to be intentional about that. He went on to say it's putting us, in 1st and 20, 2nd and 19, and we're probably the best get back on track offense in the league right now, but we shouldn't have to overcome them. Sometimes it becomes too high of a mountain to scale. That's why we didn't score as many points. That's really the number one reason. And you went on to write as well in the lower half. John Harbaugh was asked about how to eliminate these, and on top of that, the undisciplined play in general. And Harbs took accountability. He said, quote, "The buck stops here. It stops with me. It's my job to make sure we're doing the things that we need to do." And Sarah, man, you can look at this from so many different angles. The special teams ones certainly are mind-boggling and so unnecessary. He referred to those as technique issues that they teach. They've been flagged for offensive holding, false starts, illegal formations 47 times this year. And as Spencer Schultz counted and tallied up in a tweet within the hour, Cincinnati has 58 total penalties. Baltimore has 47 just in offensive holds, false starts, and illegal formations. It's not good enough.
I 1000% agree with John Harbaugh on a couple of these things. The biggest issue on offense alone, not the only issue, but the biggest issue for sure is the penalties. He's absolutely right. When we said this yesterday, the Ravens have been so penalty prone, but the offense has been so good that they can dig themselves out of it. But you can't rely on that against a division rival like the Steelers, or you can't rely on that against some of the elite defenses that are going to make it into the playoffs. So I agree. That is the biggest issue. I think the other issue is making sure you get the right play calls in crunch time moments, as we already discussed on the on the 2-point conversion. But 1000% this is true. And that is why you saw Lamar Jackson saying, yeah, we keep shooting ourselves in the foot. And he named all the games that it happened in. And then he said, this bleep is getting annoying. This for sure is true. That's why I am not panicking, because this offense is that good. You clean, like stop with the holding, stop with the illegal man down there, stop with the false starts. Just be disciplined. And this offense is going to soar even against teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Even against teams like that. The second thing I agree with him on this quote is the buck stops with me. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It's on Harbaugh to get this cleaned up and to figure it out and to coach these guys on the technique and the situations, all of it. The buck does stop with him, and that is always been the case. When a team is undisciplined, you look at the head coach first.
The irony in the fact that the Ravens still are the first ranked DVOA offense, which is a statistic that tracks efficiency. And yet you've got 3 offensive linemen who find themselves in the top 10 of penalized players in the entire league. The irony is uncanny.
Who are the 3?
McCary's got 6. He's first most penalized offensive lineman. Stanley and Fa'alele have 4 each. They're tied for 3rd. And yet,
I kind of get Fa'alele because he's new to the gig, but Stanley and McCary have been around for a minute. They got to get it together.
Yeah. Yet still, the most efficient, high-flying offense league-wide through 11 weeks. Speaking of issues, perhaps one was actually just solved on Sunday.
Well, let's hope it's long-term.
Harbaugh confirmed, as you wrote, that Kyle Hamilton and Ardarius Washington will be the 2 starting safeties deep going forward. Marcus Williams will still be working as a depth piece. He was quoted for saying, yeah, that was the plan going in with those 2 guys, meaning into Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. We were trying to attack some issues we had in the back end. I thought they played well back there. Ardarius had earned that opportunity. We put Kyle Hamilton back there as well. I thought he played very well back there. He did a great job communicating. They both did. That will definitely be the formula going forward. So we mentioned on Monday, we talked about how Tre'Davious White stole some of Brandon Stevens' snaps, and that worked out in Baltimore's favor. We didn't talk a whole lot about this, but this is the formula moving forward. Sarah, the one thing I feel a little torn, because while it certainly solved things on the back end and provided that safety coverage for level 2, which opened up Roquan and Trenton before Roquan went down, it solved things on Sunday. I'm concerned that the reason why I'm torn is Kyle can do it all. I guess my preference, and when I think he is at his most lethal is when he's up at the line of scrimmage as a blitzer, affecting quarterbacks' visions with that lanky frame, right? With that basketball player type of body and frame. And so while this solves things right now, it sucks in a sense because I love seeing 14 up there.
Did you not feel like you kind of still saw him all over the place?
To a certain extent.
I mean, obviously not lining up in all the different positions, but I felt like everywhere, it just seemed like on every play, it was like there's Kyle Hamilton, there's Kyle Hamilton, there's Kyle Hamilton. Like he was still everywhere. And being able to move him around is certainly a luxury that the Ravens just don't have right now. So you're certainly I'm gonna take the defense that just didn't allow a touchdown.
I mean, they've got no other option, right? This
So
was their only option.
Right. I'm not torn at all. I mean, I can see what you're saying. It'd be nice if there were two other really great safeties and then you could use him even more as a chess piece. But in no way am I torn by the decision based off the circumstances the Ravens are in.
Not after Sunday.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. I will also say this real quick. As he was asked about Tre'Davious White, and he said that he looks forward to the expanding role for Tre'Davious White.
Yeah.
So I think he's also on that train, that ship with the rest of us, which is giving more of Brandon Stevens snaps over to the newcomer.
He handled George Pickens well. He did.
He sure did.
And he was physical with him. And he had a couple key pass breakups. And the thing for Tre'Davious is if he does start to log more snaps, as John Harbaugh is indicating, does the body hold up? He's 13 months removed from that torn Achilles. He was not ready to log as many snaps as the Rams were kind of forced to give him at the beginning of the year from what I read up on. And then, of course, the healthy scratch ended up following because of the trade request and some of the underperformance there that he put on tape. But I hope Tre'Davious' body holds up because, man, what a great start to his career. The Ravens needed him. He answered the bell in a small sample size on Sunday.
He was asked about Justin Tucker. He was asked if they would consider bringing in competition for Justin Tucker. And Harbaugh responded saying, quote, "At this point, no, there's no thought to that. You have to find that competition first if you're going to be blunt about it. Where is that competition? The best option right now is to get Justin back on point because he's fully capable of it. Certainly haven't lost any confidence in Justin Tucker. You saw that on the 54-yarder that we sent him out for, and he drilled it. He's definitely our best option. He's going to make a lot of kicks. I really believe that going forward." Then John was also asked if the operation, the snap and the hold is hurting Justin at all. He said, not specifically. It's just a matter of them being a team. When things go well, Justin credits those guys. And then they all take responsibility for every good thing and everything that doesn't go well. So they as a unit will take anytime, like if Justin, hits, a 60+ yarder, all of them feel good about it. And if he misses an extra point, they all take responsibility for it. But Harbaugh did not say that there was anything operationally going poorly. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you saw a quote earlier today that Matt Stover said kind of the same thing.
He joined our friend Glenn Clark on the Glenn Clark radio show earlier today, and here are a few quotes that he gave Glenn. He'll get through this, knowing the type of competitor he is. And he hasn't missed a game. Look at Bucker. A lot of these kickers going down with quads, hips. I know he's strong, mentally and physically. Knowing Justin, he'll get through it. Glenn asked him, are there issues with the Ravens' field goal operation? And Matt said, I don't see it. Look at the long snapper, Nick Moore. Snaps it over the spot, means the kicker never loses sight of the ball. It's laces in front. Holder puts it right down. I'd say it, which is Jordan Stout, of course. Mm-hmm. I'd say it looks the same 95% of the time. He'll also go on to say, it's just Justin has something going on. I'll say it again. It's hard to kick a ball. We made it look easy. Even Cundiff made it look easy. He was a Pro Bowler while he was here. So Matt Stover.
He lost me on that last part, but okay.
Former Baltimore Ravens kicker Matt Stover kind of not sounding the alarm bells at all. But again,
so according to Stover, he's not saying anything wrong with the snapper hold. He's saying it's pretty much the same 95% of the time.
And there has been a lot of chatter. Yes, the answer to that question is yes. And obviously there's been a lot of chatter about that after the Isaac Punts segment that we covered within the last week or so, when he started to look at the way in which the operation was going, in the way that specifically Jordan Stout was placing the football as the holder. So,
well, and every time John Harbaugh is asked about it, he's like, he's just got to kick it straight. Like, he's just got to kick it straight.
Yep.
So, I mean, I know I've seen all the stats out there that, you know, show Tucker's stats starting to go down once Stout became the holder. But I don't know. It just seems so coincidental. It just like we were looking. I mean, again, we're no experts, but Matt Stover is. He's not saying anything with the holds, and so John Harbaugh just keeps saying, "No, Tucker just has to kick it straight." So maybe that's it. Maybe Tucker just has to get it back. He's just got to get it back.
So Justin this year has a field goal percentage of 72.7.
Mm-hmm.
He's 16 for 22. He's 3 for 7, notably from 50 plus. He's 4 for 6 between 40 and 49, 6 for 6 between 30 and 39, and 3 for 3 between 20 and 29 yard chip shots. He's 38 of 39 kicking his PATs. 72.7 is far below, of course, his career average. And because of this tough streak that he's been on, this funk, if you want to call it that, he's actually no longer the league's most accurate kicker in NFL history. As of right now, that belongs to Eddie Pinheiro. So that changed. It could change again if Justin wants to do something about it, of course. But I think that he, you know, this fan base has been treated to kicker royalty for years.
Since 2012.
You know what I mean? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, it was pretty darn consistent as well with Stover.
Yeah, but this is far from royalty now, Bobby. This isn't like we could do with like just under royalty. This is pain.
This
right
is far from royalty. I guess I just bring it up because you haven't had to live this life in over a decade. It doesn't make it feel any better right now.
Oh, I believe me, the feelings from Cundiff still run deep.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure they do. You got to hope that he figures this thing out. He's paid to do so. And the Ravens are counting on it, because obviously they're not going to be able to get to where they want to go if they can't have the confidence in Justin Tucker from a coaching standpoint, from an offensive standpoint, so on and so forth. Other notes, and this is a big one that there's no news on, and that is Roquan Smith. Harbaugh would not give media an update on Roe. He left Sunday's game with a hamstring. He just said all he said was, we're monitoring it as we go. Jamison Hensley noted that he's been extremely stable when it comes to availability. He hasn't missed a game due to injury since the end of 2019 when he tore a pec muscle. So this is one of those ones, Sarah, that I wonder when we're going to, if or when we're going to hear from the national side of things on what's going on with that hammy.
Well,
because this is a big deal.
That wasn't the full quote. What I tweeted is we're just monitoring it as we go. So we got the same part. And he'll be working to get ready for the game. Was his full quote. So the door's open. But it's a hammy. I don't even feel like listen. Like you're saying, maybe some of the national media will get it, talk to agents, all that kind of stuff. Maybe. But it's a hamstring. So what they're going to say is, even if they come out, unless it's like a major injury, they're going to be like, they're hopeful that he can work back. It's going to be something they monitor all week and even up to the game. And then he could even play and then re-aggravate it because it's a hamstring. You know what I mean?
Nothing was caught on the CBS cameras.
What's that?
Nothing was caught on the CBS cameras.
Right.
All of a sudden, you just see Roquan on the sideline with his helmet off. You're like, oh, man, I hope he's not concussed.
Yeah, and he even covered it pretty well when he was walking off with the trainer when he was finally out. So, I mean, you saw no limp. You saw no grimace on his face. None of that.
Yep. But they immediately ruled him out. I mean, it was quick.
Yeah.
quick designation that came out there around the 10-minute mark of the fourth quarter.
My guess is he won't be practicing. Maybe on Friday would be the earliest, I would think. And then I bet we're going to see those Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport early morning Sunday tweets that are saying Roquan Smith will be a game time decision. That's my prediction here on Tuesday with no knowledge of the situation.
You got that extra day. You got that extra day
Oh,
with
that's
Monday
right.
night
My
looming
bad.
as well.
Yeah, you do have the extra day. So
that means they'll
that probably means they're
travel.
gonna practice on Saturday too. Maybe like a walkthrough.
This week's going to be a little different probably because of
So
the
maybe
Monday
he
night.
won't even practice on Friday. Maybe it would be like that Saturday.
Point is, big one. There's a big drop-off when it comes to Malik Harrison as the second stringer, and that changes things for not just Roquan's position, but what that might mean for Trenton Simpson as well, who relies heavily on Roquan.
And the irony of this whole thing, Bobby, is before the injury happened, I literally tweeted, I was like, Roquan Smith is looking like Roquan Smith again. Like he was balling out.
Yeah.
That's the irony of the whole thing.
Yeah. Again, he had a couple tackles for loss. He hadn't recorded one tackle for loss, Sarah, since week 1. Finished with 13 tackles essentially through 3 quarters. He was all over the place, affecting things sideline to sideline. It was great to see him.
Absolutely.
Other notes from Harbaugh. Eddie Jackson did not travel with the team, of course. And Harbaugh wouldn't comment a ton on this. He said it was an in-house thing, as Jeff noted. He also said that Sanusi Kane and others had MRIs yesterday. Sanusi left in a boot and crutches from Pittsburgh. He's their rookie out of Purdue that's a special teamer. Kind of a hard-hitting physical player. I like Sanusi, but probably doesn't look great for him, knock on wood. He also talked about Michael Pierce, who's been on IR, reiterating that he will be back this season, which would be a big deal for the Ravens' run-stuffing abilities. Did not have a timeline on MP. He also said he doesn't anticipate Arthur Maulet with a calf strain needing to go on injured reserve, which is great news because that would be the second time this year that he'd be on that list. So, and with Kyle and Ardarius being the new deep safeties, at least for the imminent future, be great to get Maulet back to help out the corners.
Absolutely, especially since you're, moving guys around and you want some physicality there close to the line of scrimmage with Hamilton a little bit more deep. So it'd be nice to have him. What a year it's been for him, huh? Just off and on.
For sure.
So hopefully he can get it figured out.
And finally, best wishes and happy trails to Matt Skura, former Ravens center out of Duke. He officially retired from the NFL earlier this week and put up a nice Instagram post and specifically shouted out Baltimore, thanking the city and the entire Ravens organization. Baltimore became home, Matt wrote, where Emma and I raised our family, formed lifelong relationships, and became part of the community. I'm extremely fortunate to have started my career in a place that values hard work, leadership, accountability, and integrity. Went on to thank the other organizations that he played for, Miami, Giants, the LA Rams. This is a good dude, a bright guy, somebody who unfortunately lost his father to suicide within the last 2 years. Certainly wish Matt Skura and his family the best. They are good people, and hopefully his post-football career ends up being a good one.
Was he an undrafted rookie free agent that the Ravens got? Let me see here.
I don't remember.
Yeah, he was undrafted. Yeah. 2016.
Just 31 now. Hopefully leaves with his health. And
there were some highs and lows. Remember, there was some snapping issues there for a minute.
There was. But, if I'm not mistaken, was he the one that snapped it, the errant snap on that divisional round game against Buffalo? Was that cold, windy, snowy night in Orchard Park? Was that him or McCary?
I'm looking it up.
Oh, man. I do remember that because that got Lamar concussed.
No, it was. I'm looking at the CBS Sports article on it. He's like, it didn't help that Matt Skura seemingly forgot to snap at various points in the game.
That was tough. And you know what? What followed was even tougher. He was getting death threats. People were blowing him up. That was ridiculous. I remember he opened up about that. Matt's had a, you're not
people
kidding.
people really overreacted to that.
That was
Yeah.
insane. The way he was treated in the aftermath of that was absurd. What was cool about Buffalo, though, and I love their fan base. Of course, I'm going to be called Bobby Buffalo for saying this. I remember they donated. The Bills Mafia ended up donating a boatload of money to, I think, Lamar's charity or a group that he had been with in the past, if I'm not mistaken, because he left concussed. So anyway, things are just randomly entering my memory bank from that game.
Think back and reflect on his career. But yeah, no, what a guy, man, to come undrafted, became a starter, had some lows for sure in his career, but ultimately, man, gave himself a career, and that is not easy to do. I cannot imagine being in the trenches of an NFL game.
Right?
No, thank you.
It's incredible.
Thank you.
And you know what? Now you were in the league since 2016. You hopped around a little bit. You made your money, hopefully a good amount of money, and now you're Duke educated, and your entire life is in front of you. So what a cool story there, and congratulations to Matt Skura on calling it a career. Toey and Steven, thank you both for believing in what we're building and being a part of the Vault Patreon community. We appreciate you both for all the support that you give us. And if you guys are interested in doing the same this football season, you can click on the link that we have included as a pinned comment in the live chat. And for as little as $1.99, you can support the channel. It's the bedrock of our community. It's the bedrock of this channel. And we appreciate you guys for all the support that you give us through that platform. All right, so tomorrow, great stuff. Great stuff. Very substantive show here. We will have, again, doing two new things here, new wrinkles to the channel, both channels that I run. Sarah and I, of course, do this together. Bobby Baltimore on the side. We now have the best of playlist. And what the best of playlist is the condensed hour-long streams turned into 10 to 15 minutes that we feel like is not only different than what we covered in the headline that was about this, but also just gives our shorter consumption folks out there in the audience a different way of consuming us. So go check that out. It is directly below the past live streams tab when you go to our specific channel, and support us there if you're interested in doing so. It's a nice little new thing that we're experimenting with.
Thanks for doing that. Thanks for keeping on top of those things. Make it easier for people to consume the content.
Absolutely.
So,
and of course, the free things and the easy things that help us out immensely. Liking our videos, subscribing to the channel. We're coming up on 20,000 subscriptions. I know I've been saying that a lot lately, but it's a great milestone for us in 2.5 years into this endeavor. Hit that notification bell if you haven't already so you can be notified of when our live content is dropping. Under 23 hours from now, we'll be back with you for a Wednesday homage giveaway, Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. So looking forward to that. You drop in a super chat and follow our instructions. You're eligible for a free Ravens homage t-shirt. We've already had several giveaways, and it's been fun to hear from you and get selfies from those of you who have sent us.
I love our giveaway day. There's like energy in the chat. There's energy. There's just energy in the vault on the giveaway days. So I'm excited for it tomorrow.
And a fantastic idea by you that's come to fruition. So good on you. Appreciate you guys for being here. All 2,800 plus concurrents right now. On your way out, like that video, subscribe, do all the things. And for Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from this Tuesday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. We'll be back with you on Wednesday. We're looking forward to it. And as always, thanks for spending some time with us here inside the vault. Talk soon.